We won't know for sure until early next year, but the name Idalia may join a list of 14 Atlantic hurricane names, beginning with the letter I, that have been retired, including last year's Ian and 2021's Ida. Hurricane Idalia made landfall around 7:45 a.m. Eastern Time last Wednesday near Keaton Beach along Florida's Big Bend, about 170 miles north of Tampa, in one of the least populated parts of Florida, which helped to limit the storm's impact. The Big Bend is particularly vulnerable to storm surge because it's the curved part of the coastline connecting the Florida Panhandle and the peninsula, so water sort of funnels into it. Plus, the continental shelf offshore is relatively shallow, the ocean only a few hundred feet deep, which also makes it easier for water to pile up along the shore. Now here's a look at preliminary water level data from Cedar Key, Florida. This is about 60 miles south of the landfall point and home to the best long-term record of water level in the Big Bend. The wavy blue curve is the prediction of water level based on the tides, while the red line is what was observed. If this is confirmed, that maximum above the major flooding level would be a record high for this site. Notice also that the peak in the red line almost perfectly coincided with a minimum in the blue line, that is low tide, a stroke of luck that resulted in a water level about 3 feet lower than what it would have been just 6 hours later had landfall corresponded to high tide. National Hurricane Center official forecasts of the track of Idalia were consistent and very accurate. Forecast issued at 5 p.m. Eastern Time on August 26th, when the storm was still a tropical depression off the Yucatan, correctly brought the storm inland about 4.5 days later as a hurricane in the Big Bend. The first forecast that had Idalia making landfall was off by only about 15 miles from the actual landfall point. As for intensity, Idalia strengthened rapidly in the 24 hours prior to landfall. Such rapid intensification is historically difficult to anticipate, but in this case, the best hurricane models agreed it would happen, and Hurricane Center forecasters bought in, raising the intensity from 70 knots to 110 knots in 24 hours, the blue line here. That's a 45 mile per hour increase, tying the record for the greatest short-term intensification in any forecast they've ever issued. And even that fell a little short of what actually happened, the black line here, but trust me, that's a darn good intensity forecast. And when Hurricane Center forecasts are that good, the corresponding rainfall forecasts are usually good as well. And that's what happened. The actual path of heaviest rain on the right nicely followed the corridor of highest forecast flooding risk, the zone of red on the left. In the end, Idalia could have been a lot worse, but it hit at low tide in a sparsely populated area, moved fast, and good forecasts meant people were ready. That's a great combination. The tropics remain active. No surprise, on September 6th, our extended forecast is next.